the days of buying an Airbnb where you're just going to buy a 4-bedroom property, throw some IKEA furniture there, and throw it on online and think you're going to crush, those days are over.
Welcome, everybody, to Bubbles with Bethany. I'm so excited to be back this year, and I'm even more excited to have fellow hotel investor, which I'm really excited about, Rich Summers here, joining us today for Bubbles. Rich is he's a boutique hotel investor. He's got a fund to do the very same. He's got this amazing podcast called The Rich Summers Report, and he even has a really awesome mastermind geared towards helping other people become boutique hotel syndicators, which is how I think we actually met in the first place, right? Is
It
through
is.
that
It
through
is.
that mastermind. Yeah. Welcome.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
absolutely.
I'm so excited to have you. I love that we can share our passion for all things boutique hotels.
Likewise, Bethany. I appreciate you having me on, and super excited for the conversation today.
Me too. Thank you. I'm gonna dive right in. Well, first of all, cheers
Of
to you.
course.
We've got
Yeah.
our
Cheers. I
our
got
non-alcoholic beverages.
some
I
black coffee over here.
There we go. I got sparkling water here. Yes, cheers, everybody. We have a lot of people doing dry January, so I don't think there's a lot of champagne or beer going on. That'll happen later in the year, I think, as we
Hmm.
as we
Hmm.
get closer to summer. So, Rich, let me just ask you. I love this question because it makes people really think about sort of what their lane is, and I really want to know, what is your unique superpower?
That is a great question. That's something I've never answered before, but I would say off the top, my superpower is really helping people, everyday folks, realize that there is a lot of more wealth to be built outside of the traditional methods, such as Wall Street, investing in your 401k, diversifying, playing it safe. Because I was always taught from a young age to go to school, get good grades, go to college, get a job. And for the most part, that's what I did. And I worked 11 years as an air traffic controller for the government. And I put away money in the 401k. And yes, it grew, but it did not grow as fast as they tell you it will grow. And it wasn't until I woke up one day and I realized, wow, there's a whole nother world out there, real estate investing, to where I can cash out my 401k, which is what I ultimately did. And I started putting it into real assets, commercial real estate, apartment buildings, boutique hotels, short term rentals. And I started buying real assets that started really compounding my wealth over time. And so, my superpower, I would say, Bethany, is really helping people realize that there is a lot more wealth to be built out there outside of the traditional means, such as Wall Street.
I love that answer so much. I mean, I think that's why most of us are here, right? The people that we talk to in this world. And I love real estate so much. I grew up the same way, where it was like, if you want to get out of Ohio, sorry, Ohioans, but I did want to get out of Ohio. If you're a smart girl, you go to law school, you go to med school, and that's your answer, right? So, here I went to law. I started actually pre-med, and then I was like, nah, screw that.
Where in Ohio?
Outside of Cleveland, suburbs of Cleveland.
Okay,
Yeah,
nice.
and, great place to be from, so not knocking Ohio. And same thing, I didn't even know that real estate investing was a real option for me, and so I really do love that, and I love that real estate is sort of the great equalizer. You can start off from any level of wealth, any level of education, and if you're willing to put in the work, you can get there, and I think
Yeah,
that's just the coolest
absolutely.
thing about real estate.
And in all reality, anyone can do it. You know, I think,
Right.
when I was growing up, I used to see these big apartment buildings and hotels, and I thought, man, it must be nice. But I didn't realize that a lot of folks out there actually pool together money from investors to buy a lot of these properties, which is pretty cool, and it's very unique as well.
Right, I love that. I didn't know that either, and, when I started off in law even, I started off on the venture side, the more traditional, right, finance. So, venture companies, tech startups, that kinda thing, mergers and acquisitions, and I didn't even know. I mean, I knew it was there, real estate, right, but I wasn't really in that world until I met my partner Mauricio about 6 years ago, and I was helping him out, and I was doing some of these documents, and I'm like, "What do you mean net cash flow? Like, these people get paid before there's a sa what? There's just cash?" Right? Because a lot of these startups, it was like all or nothing. Maybe you 10x your money, maybe you lose your money, probably you'll lose your money, and it was sort of like just, betting it all. And real estate, I was like, "Well, this is like the slow and steady," right? Which not even really all that slow, depending. And it felt so much safer to me. I love when I hear people say, "Oh, I don't know about real estate, it's so risky." And I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" It feels so much safer to me from than the world that I came from. And so I think it's kind of great that you have people like you out there educating folks to explain to them how attainable this really is. Let's talk
Yeah,
about your
no,
mastermind
absolutely.
for a second. I have another question for you, but I want to talk about your mastermind for a second because you're out there teaching people. I mean, when I was a kid, I was like, who the fuck buys hotels? Certainly not me, right? And
Yeah.
of course now here I am where I bought a friggin' hotel. And you're teaching people you can buy a friggin' hotel.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we rolled it out in April of last year because we realized there's not really any education out there in boutique hotels. There's no books, there's no courses, there are not a ton of podcasts out there that speak on boutique hotels. There's a lot of educators in the short-term rental space, Airbnb, multifamily. And so I thought, you know what? Why don't we launch our own mastermind, create our own community around boutique hotels? So rolled it out in April last year. We have 23 members right now. We currently have 13 hotels owned and two more under contract. So super excited for it. We built a nice little community of like-minded individuals. Folks are partnering within the group. There's opportunities for people to guarantee notes, but good collaboration and partnership opportunities, which is really cool. And everyone's just really become best friends with each other, which is really cool to see. We're actually hosting our first annual retreat actually in Cabo San Lucas second weekend of March. So super excited to go down there and have a good time with everyone in our group.
That's exciting, that's exciting, and if anybody on here is interested in the boutique hotel space, and I know some of you are because people have asked me, the mastermind, is it open to application? How does one join that if they're so inclined?
Yeah, we actually just opened up a enrollment period right now, so we have a couple spots available. You can go to summerscapital.com/mastermind to book a free call with the team. I'll drop the link in the chat box right now.
Awesome, that's awesome, thank you. I didn't
Hmm.
mean to come on here and pitch the mastermind, but it is really great, and
No,
of
you're
course, I'm
good.
a huge fan of masterminds. Anybody who's listened to me speak for 5 minutes knows that I just love masterminds, and, so I think that's amazing that you do that because I don't know, it doesn't feel attainable until someone tells you it's attainable, right? It took some mindset shifts for me and some work in my own mastermind, Ascension Wealth Consciousness, and I think I saw Susan join on here, who leads that mastermind, and to even think, hey, like any ordinary person can buy a freaking hotel, you know?
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
so
no,
that
absolutely.
it kind of is a little clunky transition, as I do, to the next question that I really want to ask you, which is, I am a big proponent of helping people create conscious wealth, and that is one of those things I've learned means something different to everyone. So what does it mean to you to create conscious wealth?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, Bethany, I think wealth is much more than just money, right? So I think of it as many buckets. So family, health. Health is a very important bucket for myself. I think all these things that we do to invest in real estate and to better our lives, whether it's through business or money, or even family and that sort of thing, relationships, none of that matters if you don't have your health. And so health is one of the big priorities for me. Family, friends, relationships in time, really, right? Because at the end of the day, time is our most valuable asset here. And so to maximize the time that we have left on this planet, to be able to spend that time how we like, that to me is wealth and being well rounded and balanced in all facets. That to me is wealth, really.
I love that. It's so beautiful and it is, like I said, it means something different to everybody. And I'm interested to know if that, and I know I didn't tell you there'd be any follow-up questions, but there are follow-up questions. I'm interested to know that as you've grown in your business and as you've grown in your self, development, your personal development, how that definition has evolved for you. I know it has for me, and I would assume that if you've done any kind of personal development work, and I follow you enough to know that you do, how has that
Mhm.
definition evolved for you?
Oh, big time. I think for me, that definition really early on was really just money. And then that's all I was kind of thinking about. But, as I've grown, I've been blessed to be able to be around a lot of folks that I inspire to become, people that are above me and just being around a lot of high caliber folks. I've learned that wealth is a lot of different buckets. And so that definition really has evolved from, just money to, hey, it's more than that. It's more than just money. It's the ability to go and have valuable relationships with friends, with family, being fit, having good health, spirit, mindset, all these different buckets blended together is really how it's evolved.
I love that. And keep in mind, if you guys have questions I want you to jump into the conversation. It doesn't necessarily have to be a two-way conversation, although I will let it be. If y'all don't have questions, I will keep on going. I'm happy to do it. And I will admit I have a confession to make. I'm not sure if I told you this last time I saw you, but my confession is when I decided to buy the Mariposa, the boutique hotel that Britt Arneson and Dave Kafka and I bought together, I, um, I was like, "God, I don't know if I'm cut out." I'm a lawyer, I do all kinds of deals, but I've never done a boutique hotel. I sat down and watched your whole YouTube channel to learn what the hell I was doing. So thank you. And I'm sure my
No,
investors thank you as well.
that's what it's there for, and, by the way, congrats. I need to go down there and check out the hotel. I was out in Miami doing a podcast with investor girl Britt, and she called it out on the podcast. She said, "Hey, we gotta do a, like, a weekend mastermind, boutique hotel mastermind trip down there at your hotel in Belize." So, we definitely need to do that, maybe this spring or summer?
Yeah, absolutely. We're actually planning our events calendar right now.
Okay.
So we have our own retreats that we'll host there as well, and then the resort is open to other people hosting retreats there as well. That's actually a big part of our business plan is to expand the events and retreats that we host at the property. So some will be our own and some will be third parties, but it's gonna be lots of fun. I mean, how cool is that that you buy a property? I mean, apartment's great. I love multifamily, fantastic, but you're not gonna want to go hang out at your property, right? That's
No,
why I love
not at
hotels.
all.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah,
So
I'm excited to check it out.
it's gonna be fun. So you just closed on a hotel. Let's Can I hear about that?
Yeah, so we just closed last month, December, to close out the year on a 40 unit, basically a new construction hotel up in Lake Chelan, Washington, which is a destination location about 3 hours outside of Seattle. Really cool lake, great weather, good, basically everything out there. But anyhow, so our private bridge lender, who we've done a lot of financing with thus far, was walking one of our properties here in San Diego and said, "Hey, we are about to foreclose on one of our borrowers. They have a new construction 40 unit boutique hotel. We think that you guys would be the perfect buyers for it. We need to get this off of our hands before the end of the year for tax purposes." And so we looked at the deal. We quickly went to LOI. They accepted it. We flew up there to Seattle. The lender's actually up in Seattle. They flew us up there in a private plane up to Lake Chelan. It's near all the wineries, about a block from the water, which is really cool. And they gave us a tremendous discount because they just had to get it off their hands. They had other offers that came in much higher than ours, but they wanted us to buy it. They trusted us. They wanted the deal to go good. And so the hotel last appraised for 7.5 million. We were able to pick it up for 4.87 million with the seller credit. They gave us, yeah, and they financed it for us. They gave us 0% financing for through July of this year. Just give us a little bit extra runway to get this thing off the ground and get it stabilized. So super excited for that, and it's a big win for not just us, but most importantly for our investors.
That is incredible, and I'll tell you that's a real testament to your ability to develop strong relationships, trust, and also just having this amazing, credibility behind you. So, well done to you and your team, though. It's fantastic for your investors, obviously, but it's a really, I think, a testament to your the relationships that you build and the credibility that you have.
I appreciate you, Bethany, and really like I think real estate and business it's a relationship game. I always say, hey, if you're not making the money you want to make, it's simply because you're not shaking enough hands, right? But yeah, excited for that, and then I'm more excited for an opportunity that we're actually closing on in like 15 days. This one's a 44 unit boutique hotel up in Bodega Bay, which is it's a bay about an hour just outside of San Francisco in Sonoma County, wine country, but right on the water. All 44 units have waterfront views. The owner, this hotel's been in the ownership for about 35 years. The son has it. He's just ready to let it go. The thing's bleeding money. It's underperforming. They got an innkeeper that's on the property that basically is scaring away all the guests. When we went up to tour the property initially, the broker was like, "Hey, the owner doesn't want the staff to know that it's being sold. So just pretend like you're a prospective guest and you want to check out some of the units." So we walk up to the property and we go into the lobby and the innkeeper comes out. We're like, "Hey, we're just here to like look up for some rooms. We're interested in doing a group booking a couple months from now. What are the chances we could look at like 3 or 4 of your rooms?" And she's like, "Oh, we don't do groups." She goes, "But you can go to the hotel next door." And literally, 44 units. We're up there on a Monday. there's literally no one in the parking lot. There's 0 cars in the parking lot. And, I'm like, "Okay, well, this is a small group. It's just gonna be a couple of us. What are the chances we could look at, like, one of your rooms?" And she's like, "No, it's not gonna be a possibility." She's like, "Again, you can go to the hotel next door." So, we leave, call the broker. I'm like, "Yo, what's going on?" And he's like, "You just book a room and go back." So we booked a room later, in the day. We did some due diligence with some of the surrounding properties, came back, and Lauren on my team, she went up and, like, did the whole transaction. We got to see one of the rooms, but what we didn't know is this, is we got it under contract and we went up there to do the full inspection, got into all 44 units. It turns out all 44 units have bay views. We had no idea. The broker didn't even know either. And so, anyways, we just got the appraisal back. It appraised at 10.6 million as is, with a stabilized value of 14 million, and we have it under contract at 7 million. And so we're stepping into $3.6 million of instant equity
For
gain.
hotels, Rich, like,
I
what are
know,
you
right?
doing?
I know, it's crazy. And so, the best part is we're taking it down with 3 of our mastermind members. So 2 of them actually sourced the deal, and then they came to us and they said, "Hey, do you guys wanna partner?" And I said, "Yeah, I'd love to." And so the best part is we get to take it down with a few of our mastermind members and, take down a cool waterfront hotel for a massive discount. So super excited for it. And, I also love wine, so I'm excited to close and maybe do a little celebratory thing up there at some local wineries.
Absolutely, and I'm in for that, and, we should talk to Brit about hosting retreats there as well, because I do love me some
Let's
Sonoma,
do it.
some wine country. How far are you then from you know where Bottle Rock is in Napa, the music venue?
If you love real estate investing, passive income, and tax benefits, but don't have the time, my company, Summers Capital, is buying boutique hotels right now. We source the deals, we renovate the properties, and we even handle all the day-to-day management, making it truly hands-off for our investors. If you want to learn more to see if we can help you, visit summerscapital.com/invest to book a call with our team. Again, that's summerscapital.com/invest. Now back to the show. I don't know where Bottle Rock is, but I do know where Napa County is. Let's see here. So this is coastal. So this is like Sonoma coast. So we're probably like an hour and a half from Napa.
Okay, still even better.
Yeah.
We've got a couple questions here too. Are all of your hotels independent brands? I know the answer, but I want you to tell him.
Yeah, it's a great question. So all of our hotels are independent, meaning they're non-flagged, they're non-branded. So it's not going to be like a Ramada Inn or a Marriott. And so they are all independent. We have a hospitality brand called Excelsior Stays, which we use to self-manage all of our assets, whether they're boutique hotels or the short-term rentals. And then we do a good job at marketing, and we try to get guests to come back and repeat book at other properties. But we try to drive the direct bookings, and then our business plan really, if we can do it, we don't do it on all the properties, but if we can, we will try to operate remotely, free of the on-site manager. So a lot of these smaller boutique hotels will have an innkeeper suite. So traditionally, like the innkeeper or the property manager will live on site. And so, in today's age, we can implement a self check-in, self checkout model with the guests. It allows us to run a little bit more lean operationally, but it also allows us to bring the manager's unit online for additional revenue. And so we'll renovate that manager's unit. Often that manager's unit is like the nicest unit on the property. This bodega deal, it's like a 2-bedroom, basically apartment with a full kitchen, full living room. And so we're going to bring that thing, we're going to renovate it, bring it online for additional revenue, and then operate that one remotely. 44 units, but there's a parking lot that wraps around. It's 7 buildings. Each of the units have direct access to the parking lot. So it's really simple for the guests to do kind of a self check-in, self-checkout model, but all that money just drops to the bottom line. It boosts the NOI and leads to some good asset appreciation and equity for our investors. So super excited for it.
I love that. I love that, and I'm looking at Jared on my screen here. There's a potential for some AI check in, check out situations like they do in self storage, which would be kind of cool.
Yeah, no, there's a ton of that. Dude, I actually had a question. I met you at your office with Bethany when she was
Yeah,
on your show.
I remember. What's
Um,
up, Jared? How you doing, man?
what's up, man? Hey,
I like
I'm
I
your
like
neighbor,
I like the
dude. So I
bleach
don't know
hair,
why
dude.
we're not hanging out. Like I'm
I know.
like 20
Are
minutes
you
away
down
from
here
you.
in San Diego,
Yeah, I'm in Carmel Mountain, so North County.
dude? Come hang out whenever, man.
Yeah, yeah, I got to
I
get
mean
to
that.
downtown. Like, get me away
Come
from
through.
the cul-de-sac and the white picket fence, and sounds like fun. You were talking about the summit, right? That's what's down in Cabo, right? Is that the summit that you're doing?
No, it's not the summit, but we're doing our first annual boutique hotel retreat down in Cabo San Lucas, second weekend of March.
Okay. So what's the the goal with that, because like immediately what I thought was like, all right, you're grouping all these people together potentially that are
Yeah.
into boutique hotels and investing. Is the goal there to meet operators essentially that can partner with you? Is that like a pathway where you meet people who go and scout deals, find deals, and then potentially that's a partnership that you'd be open to?
Yeah, we are open to it. Yeah, we
That's
are
like what I
open
was
to it.
thinking when you said
So
that.
yeah, yeah. So this retreat is for our mastermind members. Um, but really, like what our mastermind is, it's really just community. And when we launched it, I was thinking just purely like we're going to help other folks buy boutique hotels. I just see it as a huge opportunity. And then I had no idea that it would lead to all this, but literally it's been like partnership opportunities. People are becoming best friends within this community and like taking down deals together. I had no idea that it would even lead to all this, but for me, I'm like, dude, it's so awesome to see. Like, we like the meetup that you and Bethany both attended down here in San Diego, like started that almost 5 years ago. And so to see all the folks that have done deals together in that meetup, it's the same thing in our mastermind. It's been super cool to see. And it's cool for us too. Yeah, there's some feel good for us too.
Like, I'd been to a couple of meetups and in San Diego, and I didn't like any of them, and yours is like, I don't even know, like 50 stories high on the top of a building, looking over all shit. It was so awesome, man. Like, that
Yeah.
was you guys executed that event so well.
Yeah, yeah. We've been doing it 4.5 years. I appreciate the kind words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
During
I
Bethel.
appreciate the kind words.
Uh,
And I gotta give the credit to my team, man. They do a great job of throwing events. They make my job easier. All I do is show up, but they crush these events, and I think that's one of the things we're good at is hosting these events. For any of you guys that are down in San Diego ever, second Wednesday of the month, it's called Beers and Deals. It is rooftop overlooking the water, downtown San Diego. It's really cool. We get bay views, sunset views, about 150, 200 people every time. But also in the summer months, we do a yacht meetup. It's called Cash Flow and Cocktails on the Champagne Yacht down here in San Diego. We do it on Sundays, 12 to 4. It's super fun. We get about 50 of us on the yacht, and we have 2 sushi chefs. We got a saxophone player, a DJ, drinks are flowing. It's a good time. But we'd love to have any of you guys out sometime if you're ever in the area.
You had me at champagne. I'm in.
yeah. Yeah,
Yes, yes.
you mentioned something I want to ask about because it was something that was like palpable when I was in your office. Like you could totally feel it. And it's inspiring because like it can make or break people's company. So like anybody who's trying to start an organization that's going to do many of these deals, you have to have a solid team, right? You just gave credit to your team. When I walked in your office, I felt this culture. And when you really harness that culture with your team, you get so much more productivity. I was curious if you had if you do anything very purposeful to like really harness that energy so that because it bleeds into your events, it bleeds into your deals, it bleeds into everything.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a great point. Well, first of all, like all of us are like super close here, so the culture is very important. And so we hire to fit the culture really. But we hang out outside of work, and so it's not just we're in here to work and that's it. But we go and do cool stuff together. We travel, we go to real estate conferences together. It's not just me; like we bring the whole team, which is super cool. But also like we go and buy all these deals, and I give a slice of equity to a lot of the key team members for all these deals that we're buying together. So it creates an alignment of interest for all these deals to go well. But number two, it's like, dude, I don't want to do this alone. It's more fun to do it with a team,
Yeah,
and I want cool people that are going to stick around and for the long haul.
absolutely.
All these properties are so beautiful. I mean, you've got and you've got a couple in Southern California, right? Just right around the corner.
Yeah, the most recent one that we just renovated and relaunched this past month was here in Lit Italy, San Diego. So like 6 blocks from our office, 1 block from India Street, which is like all the best restaurants in San Diego are right here. So that one's been cool. That was a old property. It had like bed bugs when we took it over. It's 24 units. It was disgusting. It was like we had squatters when we took over the property. It was so cheap that they had like long-term basically tenants that were like living there, like transient guests that had just stayed on the property for like months and months and months. And so even
How'd you do that?
yeah, so here's the deal. This was a learning lesson for us. So in the state of California, even though it's a hotel, any guest that has been there and checked in and has not checked out for more than 30 days now has tenant rights. And so luckily, there was like 9 guests that had been there for like well over 30 days. Some of them were pushing like 180 days. And the seller didn't tell us about this at all. They didn't disclose any of this in due diligence. But anyway, so we take over, we find this out, and we're gonna start the renovation, right? So we're like, okay, like we got to get these folks out of there kindly. And so luckily, like I think 7 of the 9 left, but 2 of them, like they knew their stuff. They put like a letter on their door from like a legal counsel, and it was like, I know my tenant rights. Please do not disturb me. So we're like, okay, here we go. But anyways, we reached out to legal counsel. They're like, hey, do this. So they put together a sheet for us. We did cash for keys, and we settled on a lump sum of cash, and they signed the paperwork and they left. So that was it.
What a
But it was a
Wow.
hustle.
learning lesson. Yeah. So anyways, we took that property. It was tired. It had all the problems, bed bugs, just so much deferred maintenance, like the laundry room. The sellers didn't want to fix the washers and dryers, so the housekeeping had to like literally like hand deliver the laundry like offsite to like a third party laundromat, bring it back. Like we just had all the problems, and so we basically did. We injected about 1.4 million into that asset and did a really good job with the reno. Came out really good. The asset's like beautiful now. It's popping, and we just did the grand opening in December, and we were sold out the first weekend we launched, which was crazy with like limited marketing. It was crazy.
Yeah, I saw that. It's so beautiful, and it's funny because I am always thinking like, oh man, anything in California is not going to be affordable, or and I
Mhm.
know there are a lot of people that won't invest in California, and that's kind of why I wanted to bring it up.
Mhm.
You've got a few properties in California now, and got a screaming deal on them.
Yes. Yeah. Here's the thing with traditional real estate investing, multifamily, long term rentals. You hear a lot of folks say, hey, stay out of California, go invest into areas that are more landlord friendly, such as Texas, such as Florida. But with the hotel stuff, our approach is the opposite. And I'll tell you why. The reason is with the hotels, we're strategically targeting areas and markets that have strict or tightening short term rental regulations because as more and more markets continue to tighten their Airbnb regulations, it brings more demand back to the hotels in terms of ADR, occupancy, and ultimately all that stuff drops to the bottom line. It boosts your NOI, and that's really how these commercial assets and these boutique hotels are valued. And so for us, we're almost taking the opposite approach. We're going into areas that are traditionally more liberal or more tenant friendly, such as California, because they tend to have tighter and stricter short-term rental regulations, bringing more demand back to the boutique hotels, if that makes sense.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. I was gonna
Yes.
actually ask you to give me a little, like, plug of why is
Well,
boutique hotel the best asset class, and you
yeah,
just did it. You just handed it over.
yeah.
I love it.
Well, here's one more. One of the other benefits of going into some of the liberal areas is, let's be honest, love it or hate it, there's more bureaucracy, there's more red tape in terms of building, right? And so the barrier to entry to build new supply of hotels in these areas keeps a lot of builders out of here, right? And so we have less risk of oversupply of hotels and new construction, which would, potentially saturate the market.
You
Brilliant.
know who next week, Mikey Taylor is on the show. He just did an interesting
Dude, love
development
Mikey.
deal. He just did an interesting one, in North Park, where he's the first developer that's allowed to go over the 4th story. So I think he's going up to 8. We need to talk to him about that next week
Yeah.
because we were talking about that in Boise, Bethany, and it was his strategy for how he got the permitting for that was very interesting because like you said, the restrictions are very, very difficult in California.
Yeah. Did you find, Rich, when you were doing all the reno, you didn't have to do any variances, you didn't change anything, right? So you just got to do I mean, did you get any city help or government help because you were fixing something that was so dilapidated?
Yeah, we did not get any assistance from the city in terms of funding. However, when we go and do these hotel renos, like in California, we're not moving walls around, we're not moving plumbing, because the permitting process in a lot of these areas can be somewhat extensive. And so, other than moving HVACs and some of the quicker permits like that, windows and that sort of thing, we did not do anything structural to where we had to pull permits for the renovation we did. We kept it mostly cosmetic, exterior and interior, and it allows us to kind of get in and out without a big lag period, if you would. Going to areas like Arizona, like Scottsdale, for example, you can pull permits for a full reno in like 7 days out there, but unfortunately, that's not the case in California.
Yeah,
Were you
well, it turns out it's not the case in Belize either. Been waiting forever. Yeah.
was it
Mhm.
historic? What were you are you in a historic part of, Little Italy?
It's not a historic building. The historic zone is very close to it. But yeah, I'm actually doing a project right now that is in a historic area. It's a historic building. in Lit Italy as well. And that one is definitely a longer period. We're pulling permits. We're building Lit Italy's first ADU on a historic property. So there's like all these hoops we got to go through. But once we're done, it's kind of a good thing because it's like, okay, the barrier to entry makes it more challenging for other operators to come in and do what we just did. So it kind of protects its value if you would. You mentioned Mikey. Love Mikey. I had to go check out his project up there in North Park. It's not too far from us here. He was actually down here on the podcast like 6 months ago. Um, big fan of him. I think that's gonna be cool. Maybe I'll drop it on the call next week.
Yeah, I love it. That'd be great. And I'll definitely I want to ask him about his new political career as well. He
Hmm.
is LA City Council, right?
Mhm. Thousand Oaks. But
Thousand
yeah.
There you
Oaks.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and he's the best. He's awesome. I love him, and he's a huge fan of. I think he only buys in California, actually. So he's got a lot of interesting things to say about buying in California. Because I heard people arguing with him at AJ Osborne's event, like, dude, man, I would never invest in California. He was like, well, let me explain to you, and he's smart as hell, right? So you're just like, oh, okay, I can't argue with that. That's
Yeah.
pretty good
Mhm.
logic. That's very good.
Hey guys, real quick, the only way this show grows, the only way we continue to bring on bigger and better guests is if you guys rate, review, and share the show. So if you could take 2 seconds or the click of the thumb to review on Apple or Spotify, it will mean the world to me. But more importantly, we'll be able to reach more entrepreneurs and more real estate investors and help them build wealth through this podcast. Now back to the show.
So Joe's telling you, he sells hotel management systems, booking engines, mobile check-in, checkout, kiosks, if you're ever in need. Is that something that Excelsior already has in, I guess, sort of embedded into the company?
Yeah, so we have a direct booking site, and then all of our hotels also have a direct booking site, so folks can go on there, book direct, and that sort of thing. Yeah, appreciate it, Joe. Mobile check-in, checkout, kiosk. Okay, interesting. Yeah, so we have like key locks, and so like all the guests will get a automated PIN for self check-in, self checkout, same as like you would as an Airbnb guest. But that's good to know, man. I'll save your contact info, Joe, and if the team ever needs anything, we'll hit you up, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's so I've been doing this for just a little bit over 16 years. So it's
Oh, dope.
just my work that you're speaking about.
Dude, I love that. And you guys do keypads and all that?
Yeah. So don't want to be plugging my W-2, but it's just when you talk about like hotels and tech, I'm like, oh my God, that's what we do. So you'll see us. We have a lot of customers actually in San Diego or in California as well. So happy to connect with you
Yeah.
offline. Maybe we can exchange emails or something.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. I stay out of the operations, but like I heard there was like some big thing, like we were using Yale locks for like all of our properties. And I guess there's like some I don't know what exactly happened, but apparently like Yale is not going to be a thing moving forward. So we're having to make a big pivot right now. So I'll definitely connect you with the team and maybe you'll have a solution for us to work together.
I also like hotels is my thing. That's what I went to school for. All my education, like 20 years of experience in hotels. So it's
No
Nice.
way.
really, yeah, it's like really weird listening to you. I'm buying hotels. Like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. That's pretty cool, man. That's pretty cool. What have you been doing for the bulk of the 20 years within the hotel space?
Yeah. Sorry. So like, in the operational side, I worked in operations before I got into the tech space. So I was trained to be a general manager. Basically, that's what my education is. So I've always been, trained to be like an operator more than an owner. But now I'm just
Yeah.
flipping the script and looking at it from an owner standpoint. Yeah, I mean, hotels, I live and breathe it all day. And then
That's
like,
cool, dude.
from a technology standpoint, property management systems is hotels effectively. So I cater to a customer base that's pretty demanding. And there's a lot of technical jargon that happy to help, or, if you ever need any guidance. You already talked about direct booking, which is good. But yeah, I don't want to disrupt the call. I was just saying like, hey, hold
That's
on,
what we're here for. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
if I can help.
Conversation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really exciting that you're even buying hotels, because that it just totally escaped my mind. My wife's right next to me. She's like, "Oh, we need to buy hotels." I'm like, "Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah. Dude, I appreciate it, Joe. We'll I'll definitely grab your contact info. We'll connect offline, man. I appreciate that.
I know,
Yeah.
I actually remember the first time it ever occurred to me that, like, regular people could buy hotels, and I'm like, "Wait."
And honestly, I'm speculating, so I could be wrong here, but I feel very bullish that right now is the time to get in the boutique hotel space. I just feel like there's been such a big run on Airbnbs over the last 5, 7, 10 years. And it's took a lot of demand out of the boutique hotels. And so now you're starting to see all these markets around the country regulate. Areas like New York City just banned short-term rentals. San Diego just slashed the supply by about 70%. And so if I'm a betting man, you're going to continue to see this trend happen, and it's going to continue to bring more demand back to the hotels. But also, all these Airbnb investors over the last 5, 7 years, the next natural progression for all of them is to get into the boutique hotel space. You know, when I go to these real estate conferences, everyone's like, "Yo, Rich, I cannot wait to do my first boutique hotel." And so I feel like it's just a matter of time before all these Airbnb investors get into the boutique hotel space. And so we're going all in on the model right now, and we'll see where the chips line up in 2 or 3 years.
You got any takes on the Airbnb crash that I keep hearing through like these random feeds? I mean, you
Yeah,
were kind of
well, I
just
mean,
alluding to it because I'm curious how that is going to impact the investors, like these people who bought homes and potentially are going to go upside down on it, or I don't know. I mean, I
mhm.
can't imagine that they would, seeing when a lot of them probably bought them at such a low interest rate.
Dude, it's a real thing, man. It it's a real thing. We manage in 9 markets, and we manage short-term rentals as well. And I would say there's a decent amount of properties that we have that are not performing as well as they did a couple years ago. So it's a real thing. We're seeing the saturation. The properties that we have that do really well on the Airbnb side are the unique ones. So the bigger ones, like I got a property in Scottsdale that's 8 bedroom, 8 bath. It's got a casita, pickleball court, beach volleyball, pool, putting green, all of that stuff,
Like
speakeasy
a mini
gym.
hotel?
Eh,
Yeah, it's like a resort. Yeah. But like those type of properties crush, but the more cookie cutter, like 3 bedroom, 4 bedroom, the days of buying an Airbnb where you're just gonna buy a 4 bedroom property, throw some IKEA furniture there and throw it on online and think you're gonna crush, those days are over. So those types of properties that are kind of more vanilla, more middle of the road, they're getting crushed right now in a lot of markets because of the saturation that we're seeing. I think, and it also travels down a little bit as well. But then you got to think, well, hey, we're in a high interest rate environment, so a lot of these deals aren't penciling. But I still see all these Airbnb, gurus online on social media. They're pushing their education courses. They're pushing the Airbnb arbitrage. I'm like, I don't get it because, yeah, I mean, there's definitely those properties that we manage. They're not performing right now.
Yeah, it's tough. I think that we are gonna see a shift, and I think you're right. Just in what I'm seeing is a shift toward the more luxury properties. So not your just cookie cutter vanilla Airbnbs, but
Mhm.
more of a luxury. Even what we're looking for, right, is the resort type properties for events.
The other thing is this is like, you got to think, a lot of folks bought Airbnbs in like 21, 22 when like rates were really low and then they were looking at the pandemic numbers. And so if you look at the pandemic, like, Airbnb numbers, they're inflated because there was no international travel. So everyone was traveling locally to weekend destinations, places they could get to for, 3 hour drive or less. And so a lot of folks went and bought up a bunch of Airbnb properties at a time where the interest rates were at an all-time low. They overpaid for properties. I mean, let's be honest, the second half of 21 and the first half of 22, you know, there was 25 offers on almost every property on the MLS. And so a lot of those were Airbnb investors, and now they got caught with their pants down. And so it will be interesting to kind of see where things level out. I don't think regulation is a bad thing for Airbnb. I think if you can find a way to legally operate, like for example, we're in San Diego. In San Diego, May of last year, the number of short-term rentals was 17,000 in the city of San Diego. They slashed it from 17,000 to 5,500. And out of the 9 markets that we manage in, San Diego is by far the best market for short-term rentals. You don't have to push and pull in these listings. The weather here is great year-round. And so these things just cash flow really well. And so part of it is because of the regulation. So if you can find a way to legally operate, I think the regulation's not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing, keeps the saturation low.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, and of course I'm excited by it, right? Of course, and I do want all my clients to do well. That's obviously good for my for my business on the law firm side is for all the clients to do well. But however the market shifts, it shifts. And I think what I'm seeing too is yes, Airbnb's taking a hit, short-term rentals taking a hit, but good operators are good operators. Right?
Hmm.
And so when people go into these different markets, there's either a contingency plan or they already knew going in like, hey, there could be a downturn and here's what we're gonna do to weather that. You know, it's I mean, I think you're a good example of that, right? You're not necessarily getting your ass handed to you right now, because you're an experienced operator. It's sort of these people that sort of limp in, right, when the market's
Hmm.
crazy and if you trip over a property, you make money. And you're right,
Yeah.
a lot of people are getting caught with their pants down now.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. And sometimes you got to zig when others are zagging. You got to take what the defense is giving you, right? And so when other assets are becoming, quote unquote oversaturated, you got to make a pivot. And so that's why we pivoted over to the boutique hotel space, and we're going all in on it right now. Doug says, "Love Bodega Bay. We love it too." And then Leonard asked about the meetup. I will drop a link about the meetup. Um,
He's like
yeah.
in
I'm on
Ohio or something.
I'll fly on that side of the world every now and then. So
Where are you, Leonard?
I'm in Atlanta.
Atlanta,
Atlanta.
okay.
Yeah. But
Yeah. Oh, that
it's just a Delta flight away.
that's right,
Mm,
that's right.
come out anytime, man. We'd love to host you at the meetup. I'll drop the link in the chat box. Also, if you go to my Instagram, there you just click my bio or whatever the link. There's a link there to subscribe to our meetup as well. And then you asked what is the typical hold period? Um, our hold period is 10 years projected. And the reason we have 10 years right now is because when we rolled out our fund early last year, there was a lot of volatility in the marketplace. Interest rate environment was all over the place, and so we felt, hey, we're unsure where the market's going to go the next 2 to 3 years, but we know if we have a 10-year runway, there's going to be an opportune time to exit within those 10 years, and so just to have a little extra runway to kind of mitigate the risk, not just for us but for our investors, is huge, right? And so that said, if we can meet our 10-year projection early, let's say year 6 or 7, for example, and it's an opportune time to exit, we'll look to exit early.
Which is great, and it's a smart move. I mean, the market's gonna cycle at some point, right? I mean, we don't see
Hmm.
usually you don't see more than 10 years of the same pattern, so it's good to have a little bit of flexibility there when markets can get volatile and you're buying in kind of a volatile market, so you'll probably find a good time in there somewhere, right?
I also
Yeah,
love
no, absolutely.
the investors that come in for 10-year deals because like that's so much easier to manage. Like it's so much less pressure. I love investors that are in it for the long haul.
Absolutely. And this is my first time doing a fund. And I got to say, I don't know if I'll ever go back to like the single asset syndication. It's just been so much easier from like a reporting standpoint. It's like one set of investors for reporting, distributions. And then also like just everything is so much easier. And then when we go buy the next asset, it's like the paperwork's already set up. It's just, I don't know, it's a lot easier and on multiple facets. And then from the investor standpoint, it's like they don't need to pick and choose which deal to go into and which deal to pass on, and they can get a nice blended return based on all the assets in the fund. So I think it's been a win-win for both of us and our investors.
And I love that because 'cause I'll tell you, we've been seeing a little bit of a trend. We saw a trend after 2020, after COVID. We saw everybody flying into funds because it was, a lot of money was sidelined and people were like, "All right, I just wanna be ready with some cash whenever there's an opportunity to buy something." So we saw people just like, "All right, I don't wanna sit still. I'm gonna go ahead and start a fund." And we kept that going. Now it's what, 4 years now. And we have found just recently over the past, I don't know, 6 months or so, some of our more experienced syndicators are like, "You know what? I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go back to single asset because our investors are starting to demand it." So it's interesting, and maybe it's just a different because it's a different asset class or it's different markets or whatever. We're seeing a little bit of a split now of everybody wanted to do funds, and now people are like, "Ugh, I think it's just easier." It's frankly easier to sell a single asset because you can get
Mhm.
into the numbers and here's the dirt or whatever. But when you've got the track record like you have, and you've got this sort of, I don't want to say up and coming market, but a little bit of up and coming because, most people have been in multifamily for the past few years or even
Oh, we're just
single
getting
family
warmed up
homes.
over here, Bethany.
Yeah, I know. I
Mm.
know. And I'm excited to see it. I'm excited
This is
to
this is
be
this is
here.
just the beginning.
I know. I'm excited to see it. And so it's really cool to hear, that this has been a good experience, and because I think it's good for the investors. If you have a good track record and you're a good operator and all these things, I think it's really good for the investors to get that diversification. It's really
Hmm.
a good thing for them too. So that's cool to see. I'm excited for you and to see what comes out of this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I appreciate you working with us with the council. We were working with another SEC council prior, but love the relationship that we've been able to build with you guys and looking forward to doing more stuff together. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm so grateful to have you. Thank you. It's been fun. I love funds, and so the idea of people kind of getting away from funds is it's a little bit of a bummer because I love doing funds. It's fun to strategize and kind of figure out the different structures and things like that. So that's kind of cool.
Hmm.
Um, you know, I want to let everybody know we have a few more minutes if anybody else has some questions. But if you, Rich, where is the best place for people to connect with you on socials? Where do you want people to go and watch you?
Yeah, everything's on Instagram at Rich_Summers, SOMERS. All my stuff's there, podcast, meetup stuff, mastermind, and invest with us as well. But yeah, everything's on Instagram.
And you have a really awesome YouTube channel too. How do people subscribe to your YouTube channel? Like I'm a personal
Um,
fan.
yeah, yeah, appreciate you. Just search Rich Summers on YouTube and it will pull up there. One thing about the fun where we were just talking about it. One last thing I wanted to mention. I was out in Houston not too long ago interviewing the apartment rock star, Robert Martinez, and he's very open about this. He talked about it on the podcast, but he got foreclosed on a $52 million multifamily loan not too long ago. Bought a Class A building, had some hiccups in due diligence. He went from in-house property management to third party, and didn't work out. Lender took back the asset. They tried to work with them. He tried to work with the lender, and they ended up taking it back. Now, this was a single asset syndication, right? And so he has 11 deals that went really well and one that didn't. So had he had a fund, the blended return for the investors would have been in the green, and they wouldn't have lost all their equity in this one. So I think the takeaway is like the fund takes a lot of risk off the table for the investors too.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's a good point. It's a good way to get some diversification and to mitigate the risk and kind of even out. I mean, you don't have the sort of outlier way up here, but it mitigates the downside risk, which I think that's a really good point. So what can we look for from you? This is the last asset in this particular fund, but what other markets do you have your eye on?
Yeah, so we love coastal markets. We love areas in good locations. We love waterfront stuff. For me, generally speaking, I'm like, the time it takes to manage and renovate a property, get these things deaded up, raise all the money, and that sort of thing. Generally speaking, is about the same time and effort as it is in a place like Oklahoma or Ohio versus a high growth market such as Santa Barbara, California, or San Diego, something that's waterfront. But I know we're going to create a lot more equity for our investors and for us in a high growth area. And so we're looking at more coastal stuff. The Little Italy Hotel was the first commercial deal that we've done in San Diego. And I'm like, guys, we got to do more of these. Like this is awesome to be able to just walk 6 blocks down the road, go check in on the reno at any time. So that's been kind of cool. There's 6 boutique hotels in Little Italy. We have one. I told the broker that sold us the deal, I'm like, let's do another one. So hoping to buy more stuff in San Diego, but mostly coastal California is where we're looking.
I love that. I do want to. I actually want our next one to be Southern California as well. I'm a little
Yeah, please.
biased, like
San
you.
Diego. Yeah. So I
Yeah,
could just like
I'm a
pop
little
over there
biased.
whenever.
My
Yeah.
daughter graduates high school next year, and so I'm like, all right, I'm a little more mobile after that. So
Yeah, you got to get investor girl Brit to move out here to California.
I know I explained to her a whole plan. I was like, talk to your immigration lawyer. This is what you do. And, I was
Yeah.
like, "We'll buy you a castle. You have to live on site to be the property manager on site, and, then you have to she's gotta hire she's gotta do the E-2 visa, I think, right? So she's gotta hire some folks. I'm like, "We need folks in our fund." So, because
Hmm.
that would be the next move is we're hoping to sell the Mariposa property for a profit into a fund that we also manage so we can then double down and buy a few more, but in the
Oh,
States
really
this time.
nice.
So the next one will be in the United States, though.
Are you gonna do this with Brit?
Yeah.
Love it. And are you guys actively looking right now?
No, we wanna focus on getting, Mariposa's value up in the next year and a half, 2 years. So that
Hmm.
then when we sell it at a value, at an increased value for our investors that are in that deal. So then hopefully they'll want to come over with us into a fund. So no, we're not even looking right now. I want to focus on tree houses and events
Yeah,
and making Mariposa as valuable as it can be.
I love it. I love it. We got to get both you and Britt in our boutique hotel mastermind.
We do actually. That's not
100%.
a bad
Yeah,
call. Yeah, that's not a bad call because we definitely want
and
to keep.
and then we gotta book that weekend retreat mastermind trip down there in Belize. So we gotta make that happen too.
We absolutely
Yes.
do. It is. I cannot explain to you. Well, you're going to be in Cabo, which is a similar climate. I can't
Hmm.
explain to you how amazing it is there. It's like the staff treats everybody like family. The food is incredible. Our chef is literally an award-winning chef. He's fantastic.
I love that. What's the best time of year to go weather-wise?
Um, the peak season is starting in US Thanksgiving all the way till about April-ish is the peak season to go. But I will tell you, I've been there in October, I've been there in November, I've been there in July, and it's gorgeous all the time. It's hot as hell always, right? It's always hot.
Mhm.
And humid. I like that. So, but the peak season is really November to April.
I love that. Okay. I'm looking forward to checking it out. It looks so cool on the photos online.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun, and Britt has some really good ideas on, some of the design stuff to just level up the existing tree houses and then the new tree houses as well. And then, we just when I was there, I guess 2 trips ago, sat with the kitchen staff and we got to, like, redo the whole menu in the restaurant and all this kinda stuff. It was so fun. So there's a lot of really fun, exciting changes coming there too. So it's really cool.
Yep,
I'm hooked.
absolutely.
Definitely hooked. The hotel space is it. Leonard likes it hot. That's right. Well, you're in Atlanta, my friend. It gets kinda cold there.
It's freezing right now. It's like, I think yesterday morning they said it was the same temperature here as it is in Anchorage, Alaska. And I was
No,
like,
thank
well,
you.
that's no
No,
fun.
thank you. That's a non-starter for me.
All right. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
thank you.
It gets to 60 here and I'm kinda pissed.
Yeah. Yeah.
No. No.
There's
No.
a good question here
Yeah, yeah,
about
yeah.
insurance. Like, because insurance has been a big deal in Florida, right? For multifamily. So, how has insurance affected waterfront coastal properties?
Yeah, insurance has been a big topic over the past year, especially the last 6 months. We had our insurance premium double at the San Diego property, like literally over the last few months. But we've seen it all over the place. So I've seen 10-unit boutique hotels in flood zones in Florida come in at like $100,000 premiums. And the one that we just closed on, the new construction 40-unit up in Lake Chelan, that premium came in at 17,000 a year, right? So it's just all over the place. But what we're seeing on our end really is, the areas that are in potential flood zones or that have a higher risk of flooding, the premiums are just like out of this world. It's crazy. Generally speaking, the newer properties that have good sprinkler systems and that sort of thing and are not in flood zones, those premiums are very, very low. We do have a waterfront hotel, 10-unit boutique hotel up in Northern California in Shelter Cove. And that one's not bad. I think it's like 16,000 a year. Not bad at all, but we are seeing those other assets as high as 100 grand, so it's kind of crazy all over the place.
Yeah, that's
And it is killing a lot of deals. Like if you're selling a 10-unit boutique hotel and the insurance premium is 100 grand, like that's going to kill the deal.
for sure. I can't even imagine what you'd have to do to make that work. I don't
Yeah, I know, I know.
So you need to be friends with a lobbyist or something to get the insurance companies to start playing ball.
Hmm.
We should
Yep,
ask Mikey what
absolutely.
he does. As what's Mikey do?
He does do hotels, right? I don't think
He
he does
doesn't do hotels.
hotels.
No,
Yeah,
no. I think but I'm sure he's got something to say though about the insurance premiums.
that
That
guy's crazy knowledgeable. It's really fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah, he is.
Yeah, crazy. We hit him up. This is off topic, but like Bank of America recently, like they're not working with real estate syndicators anymore. And so we had all of our accounts with BOFA and they just started shutting them all down. We're like, what is going on? And so I hit up Mikey. I'm like, hey, dude, I know you got a couple funds. I said, who do you guys use for banking? And so he said First Citizens. So we've been over there since. They're a little bit like behind the times with technology, but we've been, working around them. At least we know we're not going to get shut down. But it is good to know BOFA's shutting down all real estate syndicators.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't know that. We use Chase for ours and we've had really good experiences. I know people are like, big banks, but Chase has been fantastic for us.
That's
So
good. That's
far.
good to
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, yeah. So if anybody needs a referral, the private banker there, he's fantastic. Helped. I have like, I know it's a bad practice, but I have all my accounts there. I know you're not supposed to do that, but
Really?
I, yeah.
Yeah. Nothing wrong
I,
with
I had
that.
I had a friend in banking, and he's like, you shouldn't have all your accounts at the same bank. I'm like, what if it's a really good
Mhm.
bank? I like that bank. We had a couple
Yeah.
questions here, real quick. We got like 3 minutes, if you don't mind. Um, Strat, hi, how are you? If your property's profitable and the
What's up,
investors
Strat?
get paid, let's see. Would you hold it for longer than 10 years and keep it in your portfolio?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple scenarios to where we would go past the 10-year projected hold period. So one scenario would be if year 10 comes and we're like in an inopportune time of the cycle to exit, we would hold and we would wait for a more opportune time to exit. But the second scenario would be exactly what you're alluding to, Strat. Shout out to both of you and Nico. The team loves you guys. Yeah. But anyhow, so yes, if we were able to, let's say, crush it on any one of our hotel projects, and let's say we're able to execute a maybe one or maybe two like really nice refis, cash out refis during the 10-year hold period. Investors got all their money back. They still own equity in the deal. Their return on investment moving forward is infinite. And we feel like it makes sense to continue holding this asset. We would hold it past the 10 years. And I think all of our investors would be super down with that if they were able to recoup all their money and still get paid long term. So that would be the two scenarios. What did Nico say? Your team handled that experience with the bank so swiftly. We joke because the team Nico writes the best emails, and so the girls on the team are always joking.
The best
Yeah,
ever. Yeah.
the girls on the team are always joking like we need to start screenshotting all of Nico's emails and like framing them and putting them up in the women's restroom here at the office just for like good vibes. They're that good.
Poetry. Everything Nico writes, whether it's a DM on Instagram or an email, it's like poetry, and you feel like the most special person on the planet. So thank you for
Yeah.
that, Nico.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, thank you for the good vibes. You guys are always good vibes. And I got to get out to Maui. Yeah, so I got to come out, hang out in Maui, and say what's up to you guys and Tyler and everyone else.
Yes.
Absolutely. We'll have you guys
Same.
anytime.
Oh, you're the best.
Love
Thank
it.
you.
Love it.
So Rich, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here. This is something that I just really love to do, and so I really appreciate you taking the time to come talk to us and share your wisdom. If anybody wants to reach out to Rich to invest, you've got the website. If you want to reach out for the mastermind, you've got the link to that. Make sure you follow him on Instagram, subscribe to his YouTube channel, and we will see you all here next week where we have a chat with Mikey Taylor, and you can ask all these questions. I hope to see you all here then. Have an awesome
Thank
week,
you so much,
everyone.
Bethany.
Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you
you
so
guys.
much. Have a great night.
Later, guys. Good night.
Good night.